When were you yourself diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in, I think it was October 1984. I sort of had an unusual experience in that when I went in to get tested and was told I was positive, I wasn't overly alarmed because the way it was put to me was, well, we think you probably got a 1 in 10 chance of getting AIDS. You know, and at that stage I was only in my early 30s, so I thought, you know, I was fairly impervious to just this little virus that had come along and I'd be okay, because they were saying that maybe it was a bit like the hepatitis B virus, that you could develop antibodies to it and not actually get the actual illness. So I just thought maybe 1 in 10 chance, I can live with those odds. So I was a bit alarmed that I had something that everybody was, you know, getting a little bit hysterical about. But if those were the odds, I thought I could live with them. And then as the 80s unfolded and we understood that antibodies don't work to HIV, and that possibly as many as 100% of the population of infected people would go on to get AIDS, then I started to get alarmed. And friends started to die about, I think the first one was 86, someone I knew well.
How did you react to that?
Well, what shocked me really was how quickly it happened. You know, what we had done in that time, there weren't really AIDS Council groups set up for positive people. There was some caring going on, and there was certainly a lot of prevention work going on to stop people getting infected. But when it came to this concept of peer support, it was relatively new. So we set up our own peer support group in Melbourne. A group of us just decided to meet in each other's homes, and so that's how I met this fellow. And he was coming along to our meeting, and next week he'd gone. I mean, he wasn't well. He was certainly he'd had PCP, which is, you know, the pneumonia, and we thought he'd gotten over it. But in those days, you know, obviously people had very few T cells, and the slightest thing and they could go. And he apparently developed a pneumonia, and in a couple of days had gone.
So you think that the AIDS activism have been an important part to develop the Australian response?
Without a doubt. In fact, I think in many ways we helped write the Australian response, because we were coming up with the ideas. The concept of a partnership between community and government, which, you know, Neil Blewett championed, was really put to him by community in the first place, saying, look, the way to approach this epidemic is not to say, let the doctors rule it, you know, decide everything. It's to get the community engaged. And the way you're going to do that is if you let the community spread the messages amongst their own, because they will be trusted messages, and they'll be more possibly explicit messages, not sanitised like, you know, an average health department campaign of advertising might do, but you'd have the more robust messages coming from the community. So I think we helped governments in many ways show them the direction for a new response involving community in health promotion as never before. So I think when it came to consultation, governments learnt, well, we just don't deliver edicts. We talk to the people first. So we know how this is going to go down, because we've got a very noisy constituency out there. You know, the friends and the family and, you know, the ACT UP people and everyone, everybody was very concerned about this issue because their friends were dying. So how do you handle, so to speak, or you deal with a noisy constituency? One of the ways is to connect well all the time with community, and the community then, their leaders, can reassure the folks out there that things are happening.
Is it important to understand the history of HIV and AIDS?
Oh, absolutely. I think unfortunately people that come along today, even people who are newly diagnosed as HIV positive, think maybe it was always like this, there was always a treatment, there was always you know, a way to get through this without without maximum fuss. But in fact, from our point of view, we had to fight. We had to fight for all those early treatments. We had to change attitudes. We had to turn around a lot of government regulations and laws, and bring in anti-discrimination clauses. Otherwise, you know, people would have been treated much worse than they were.